week long, Marty Schottenheimer talked to his...
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
Saludos and salutations, Broncos country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. I'm your host, Adan Diaz, and joining me as always to my right is my co-host at Richie. Richie, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. And Richie, before we kick off today's show, we have to always start off with our favorite it's 4 words. How about them Broncos, baby? Woo! I can't count. I'm so excited. 2-0, Richie. The Broncos are 2-0. We are tied for first, if I'm not mistaken, in the divisional standings with the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Chargers down in the basement. So, with that being said, Rich, it just feels so amazing. It feels great to come on the air today and talk not just Broncos football, but just talk about how amazing this team is looking so far. Especially in September, where over the last 3 years we've had, some pretty just not great starts to the, football season, Rich.
I agree.
So with before I continue getting on, let me just remind you guys that we are a fan-led Broncos-based podcast, filling you in on all things NFL news, but more importantly, Broncos news. We go live every single Tuesday at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, guys, please do not forget to watch on Thursdays the Mile High Roundtable, which features myself, Glenn Hauser, the boss Mundungus Creevy, and of course our very good friend Mr. Boggins, which airs every single Thursday at 7654 equally. And on Fridays we have the Nothing Rhymes with Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue broadcast with our very good friends Isaiah and Johnny Baki, which also airs at 7654. So make sure you guys are tuned into the network, subscribe, hit those thumbs up so you guys get the live notifications when we go live. Oh, and of course, before I forget, the Neigh-borhood, I keep forgetting to download the horse chanting. I promise I will, Johnny. Don't forget to watch the Neigh-borhood, which airs every single, not just Sunday, but airs before every 1 hour, 2 hours before every single Broncos game goes live. So make sure you guys are tuned in, subscribe, so you get live notifications, and you'll always be caught up and notified whenever we get a post amazing contest, and know that we, as Broncos country, are here. So, with that being said, Rich, let's get talking about this past victory with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, it was amazing. It was great. Now, I will say that there was a little bit of I don't know if I want to say weird, but I know a lot of us the last week, Rich, were kind of predicting that the offense was just going to explode and, run the Jaguars defense over. So even though the Broncos won by just 10 and, didn't get to reach that 30-point mark that we progressed, the offense looked really good out there. I mean, they did kind of stutter step a little bit towards the beginning, but Teddy Bridgewater, he was calm in pocket. The offensive line did give up 2 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So
they did. They did.
Yeah. So that was not very pleasantful to see. And but to give them credit, Neigh Moody, I hope I said his name right. Neigh Moody was part of that O-line that he hasn't really had that much time to gel with the O-line so far. So, and he's stepping in for Graham Glasgow, and hopefully Graham Glasgow is healthy and he can come back to be on this offensive line soon, so he can keep our quarterback standing up straight. But Rich, what are your thoughts about this past Sunday's victory?
I would have liked to have seen a bit of a faster start. I do think that the Jags D-line caught our kind of offense and offensive line a little bit off guard. They certainly came out and played much, much better than they did in the first game that we saw. So, I mean, some credit has to go to both the offensive line as well as Urban Meyer for tweaking his team and kicking everyone in the rear to come out to play a much better and better fought game on Sunday against those Broncos. And I actually thought Moody played very well considering he had a few, issues in some of those plays. However, generally speaking, I think overall we saw less pushback of Moody than we saw when Glasgow was in, which is a good thing. And then now we just need to start seeing Moody showcasing his strength and starting to really push guys off the ball in the run game like we know he can.
Of course. And before we continue talking about today's highlights, Rich, let's say hello to some of our loyal and lovely viewers we have here in the chat. Landon Clark, boss's son, saying, hello, everyone. I won't be here for the beginning, so I stopped by before.
Thank you, WizKid.
Thank you, WizKid. Hope you have a very good time for the rest of your day. Gary Neighbor saying, go Broncos, number 120. Okay, go Broncos, number 120. Avatar saying, what's up, Broncos country? How about that quote-unquote special teams? We're going to get into that in a little bit. Yeah.
Back. He used a question mark rather than an exclamation mark. So I realize you are personally harnessing your internal Skip Bayless, but in all fairness, he did use the question mark at the end there. So you can read it any which way you like, but it was a question and it was not a Skip Bayless cheer, I think, which is important.
Right. I took it down. So Avatar saying, I just saw that Bradley Chubb is having surgery, but hopes to be back later in the season. That's exactly true, Avatar. Bradley Chubb did go on short-term IR, if I'm not mistaken. He is slated to be out for at least 3 weeks. So at least. Unfortunately, the training staff thought that he would be a go this past Sunday against Jacksonville, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way, and he made his injury not worse, but not.
He definitely aggravated it.
Yeah, he aggravated it.
But you don't often see men of Bradley Chubb's stature keeled over on the ground, punching the turf in the middle of a game. That was he's certainly pretty upset.
Right. Well, what I meant by worse is like if he was out for the season.
It could have been worse. It was bad, much worse,
but it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
The boss Mundunga saying, "Yo, what's up, boss?" EJ saying, "What's up, Broncos country?" Hello to you, EJ. Savage Sev Cisneros saying, "What up? What up, Savage?"
Sev, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
It's always good to see you, my friend. Savior633 says, I'd like to watch the stream, but here it's 1:00. God bless you guys. Hey, God bless you too, Savior. And you can always rewatch the stream after it airs. It's live on the channel. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, notifications, so you can always come back and watch any of the videos on the MHRT network whenever you want.
There's a bell at the bottom of the videos that we have. When you subscribe, there's that bell. Select that all. What'll happen at the end of this, once we finish going live, you'll get a notification when it's actually ready for you to actually watch after the fact. Please go ahead and do that. It'll really help us out, and you'll never miss a great piece of content because we got 4 shows now.
Yes, we do. The Mahai Prophet saying, you are not mistaken. And the Mahai Prophet was great to see him live at the tailgate party for the
that was awesome
show. It was great. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear us and we couldn't hear them. But hey, Broncos fans out there were having a blast, and that's what we love to see. Dave Glassman saying hello with the hearts. Hello, Dave Glassman. Vic saying hi, everybody. Hello, Vic. And here's a name I haven't seen. Case by Case Sports Show saying we need to tighten up on the special teams. Unexcusable to go this long with piss poor effort on that side of the ball. And you are not wrong, Case.
He was being very kind.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think he was holding back, if anything. There was a tweet I put out, and I haven't been on Twitter that long, and I'm not really like Twitter literate or Twitter famous. But that tweet is as of this moment has been the most liked and retweeted tweet on the history of my page. So I am so happy that it was a burn on Tom McMahon of all the tweets that I'll probably ever put out in my life. Bree saying, dropping in to say hello. Hello, Bree.
Hey, Bree, how you doing?
And I always love hearing her talk Broncos. So it's good to see her here at the show. Danny Trujillo saying, hola from Colorado. Hola, Danny. It's good to see you, my friend.
Bonjour, Danny. How are you?
Yeah, good. So going back to what Case was talking about, though, Rich, Tom McMahon has, I mean, the fact that he still has a job at this very freaking moment, it's like Bogan says, it's 4:11 p.m. time, Pacific time, and Tom McMahon is still employed. Yes.
Well, I don't know if this is better or worse. It's 7:12 p.m. Eastern Standard, which sounds actually worse than that. So we'll just go with that instead. And Tom McMahon still has a job.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and we keep joking about this, but I feel that there's some truth to this. We don't know what Tom McMahon has on hell, even George Payton by that matter, but he must have something on somebody that's like the plays like that can happen all for the rest of the season, Rich, and it's just Tom McMahon saying, "Oh well, we'll work on it tomorrow. We'll get back to the drawing board."
I originally said it must have been high-res glossies. I think I was wrong. The only way you still maintain your job after that type of display is video evidence of something. There's nothing that I can think of that would allow someone to maintain a position. And again, I'm pretty sure I said this last pod, but I'm positive I confirmed it. Tom McMahon was also the only surviving coach. So when the Fangio regime took over, Tom McMahon was kind of the lone survivor of the previous regime. Now, which makes you wonder if maybe Tom McMahon's leverage is not over Fangio or any of the others. He might have something on Elway.
I wouldn't put it past you or past anybody of that.
Yeah, so I mean,
but it aggravates me a lot, Rich, because the Broncos offense on that game on Sunday did really well. They went out there, they didn't turn the ball over, no fumbles, no picks. And even the defense, even though there was that play where they gave up a touchdown, they shut down Trevor Lawrence for the rest of the three quarters. They did not allow a single touchdown after that. So when the offense is playing good and the defense is playing good and they're trying to reel in a win, special teams cannot be that straw that they could possibly break that camel's back, because you cannot give any opposing team momentum at all. Because once you do, you give that team hope, you give your team more desperation and anxiety, and you're more liable to, be making a mistake when you're trying to play by the book or do things, the right way. So this whole thing with Tom McMahon, it has to be addressed eventually. It cannot keep going unnoticed or untalked about, because I have a feeling, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I have a feeling that it's going to get to a point where something like that's going to happen, not just once, but maybe twice, and it's going to be something that could swivel the decision of between a win and a loss. So,
no, I agree. I mean, the one thing with special teams that we have to remember in that game, imagine if that game was closer.
Right.
I saw a great comment here about teams like Kansas City who are prone to coming back even from multi-score deficits. Teams like the Steelers, the Ravens, other teams that are just really disciplined or generally disciplined football teams, or at the very least have the firepower to just say, well, it's time to win now and just start going down the field. So we need to be extremely careful when it comes to our special teams, that we don't see what we saw last year in that one KC game where two special teams blunders effectively lost us that game. And you cannot have that, because you will lose against good teams. Full stop.
No, I totally agree with that, Rich. And, as we head towards week 3 against our upcoming opponents, the New York Jets, which we will get to talking about in just a little bit, folks, is the injury front. We talked a little bit about Bradley Chubb a few minutes ago and the fact that he's on short-term IR. And the Broncos, in terms of outside linebackers, they're not desperate. They're not thin on that. We do have Jonathan Cooper, who I don't think has started in an official NFL game yet, but that could change. And we do have Malik Reed, who can, I'm guessing, maybe line up opposing opposite side of Von Miller instead of playing in for Von Miller. I mean, the rotation is there. I trust Vic Fangio in terms of trying to plug in players where they need to be plugged in. But I think what really hurts more, Rich, is losing Josie Jewell, Honey Bear, for the year with another pectoral muscle tear, which, if I'm not mistaken, is what we lost Jarrell Casey to last year, correct?
We did. Now, let's be honest. At the beginning of this season, did you ever think you would be making a comment like that about the Honey Bear? Because I'm going to be honest, he really came out and surprised me with his level of play. He took substantive steps and strides forward in his play. More importantly, he's looked far more explosive and kind of quick twitch than he had in the years past. And all the credit in the world for him for making those steps and kind of really putting that effort in, which is, a lot of what we were looking from some of the other players that we had in our team. So good for him.
Yeah, I mean,
really good for him. And he hadn't lost the intelligence and processing either. So he elevated the weak area of his game, but kept the other part of his game high too, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, it was thanks to him that he forced that hit on Daniel Jones 2 weeks ago, and forced that fumble. So it's great to see. It's great to see Broncos players improving in Broncos country, but it really sucks when it's the ones that when they take that giant leap forward and injury just comes and just ruins it. So I do know that Broncos, the Broncos themselves did have some players in-house today in terms of possibly being moved up to the 53-man roster. I don't remember their names, but I know they're trying to fill in their spots. And that's if the Broncos don't trade for another linebacker or sign a free agent linebacker at that. So
they had tryouts today with 2 guys that they announced. So they're clearly looking at filling out that position group. I do think, though, that what they're looking for the guys that they tried out, based on who they tried out, I think that player, if they do bring them in, will slot in at number 4. So I think what you're going to start seeing is basically throwing right into the fire guys like Baron Browning and Stranad.
No, totally.
Which, frankly, I actually thought both played fairly well, particularly Stranad when he stepped in. So I actually don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in terms of what we saw.
Right. And, speaking of Surtain, Case by Case Sports Show, as with this comment, PS2 needs to tighten it up a little bit too. I get that he's a rookie, but with his work ethic and pedigree, I feel like he could be a bit better than he's showing. There's unlimited amount of potential. Now, I understand your point here, Case, but as much as I want to agree with it, you can't really rule out the rookie aspect. There were a lot of rookies that started, if not this week, last week. We saw the Justin Fields taking over for Chicago, and he did just enough. Even though he made a mistake, he did just enough to get a win over Cincinnati. Micah Parsons, they moved him from his position to outside edge rusher, and they were able to do just enough to get a win over the Chargers. So right now, I believe that a lot of coaches in different around the league are going to move around their rookies and kind of put them in different formations to see where it is that they elevate themselves and play better at versus where it is that they struggle. So for PS2, he did have his very first game interception, and it was a pretty long run he had to run. He had to run almost to the end zone to go get it. So I think that there will be times where he's going to struggle, which is fine. But on the other hand, I don't see his struggles being something that's going to keep him from being great. He's going to be great. He's going to be very well worth the pick that Denver got him for in this past draft.
Right. I actually think that a couple of things that we need to kind of factor in here. I think we saw Surtain used in what I believe to be an unnatural position for him, which was as a slot corner. I actually think he is better suited on the outside. And I actually think, just almost to push back a little bit on that comment, I think you saw that in the sideline interception that you saw in the game against the Jags. He's a rookie, so he's going to have a few oopsie moments, which frankly, as Broncos fans, yes, he was high pick, but you got to give him some slack, right? You just have to give him some slack. And I 100% agree. He also dropped one as well. So again, you got to give him some slack. But we saw him play on the boundary as a corner, as a rookie, And frankly, he did really well. So as far as I'm concerned, you leave him on the outside. You leave him in that position. You have him play that spot, and we go from there. And with the injury to Darby, we are seeing Surtain step into a position that I think our coaching staff wanted to kind of ease him into a little bit more. And I think they probably wanted to have Surtain play that outside boundary corner next season. Mm-hmm. But with the injury to Darby, he's in there now. And frankly, I think he did very, very well for us. And we should be very pleased as Broncos fans.
Agree. And Bree jumps in saying, tell me any other player who would have been able to maintain coverage in the Giants' blown tackle he, quote unquote, missed. I will accept no PS2 slander. Interceptions speak louder. And as the honorary fan club president. And I know I told her on Twitter that I signed up myself to be vice president. So I do agree with this statement here, Rich. And Bree is totally right.
My only comment back to that is I just think PS2 was playing in the wrong position in the cornerback grouping. I think that he should have been moved as like rotational outside boundary corner, and maybe he and Fuller rotate in the inside as the slot cornerbacks. So my only pushback is I think that was more of a coaching thing rather than a PS2 thing. Mm-hmm. I just think that even he came in after the game and said, I made a mistake. I did this and I should have done that. So he even recognized his own kind of whoopsie or error there. But again, he's a rookie. He's going to make a couple mistakes, and we have to just be okay with that. And it's also fair for us as fans to say, let's wait for that year to jump, because he's already come in more polished than most. When we see him come in year two, I believe it's fair for us to expect that he's going to look back at his own tape, learn from it, and do even better, which, heck, who's going to be disappointed with that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the boss here is jumping in saying, as a rookie corner, I think PS2 showed very well, and the fact that he can improve just shows how good he will be compared to where he is now. So the boss is right. The ceiling is high for Patrick Surtain, folks, and he's only going to get better with time. And believe it or not, I mean, it sucks not having Darby in right now and playing and being on the IR list, but sometimes you got to take a negative and turn it into a positive, and putting Patrick Surtain in and getting him the reps and getting him used to life in the NFL as we speak, because a lot of college players I believe that that it's the same thing going from college to the pros, and it's really not. And all the rookies this year are finding that out the hard way. So
super modest.
Yeah, well, the boss has been very blunt. He doesn't hide it. He's great. I do understand that we have our guests here already, Rich, in the backstage.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe pull in one more question, if there are any, with regards to the Jags games or sure, comments on injuries and whatnot. I mean, the Broncos have suffered a fair number of injuries, and we had some interesting play that came from the Jags game. Was there anything else that you had with regards to that Jags game that you might want to bring forward or bring up? I mean, for one, I wanted to bring up Tim Patrick again. Mm-hmm. You just think about the fact that he's kind of on the last year of that deal, and every time you see him on the field, he is a difference maker. Yeah. And frankly, I think that against the Jets, he can be another one of those game-changing players. And so I just like to bring that forward and bring that up with the group here.
Right. Well, actually, we can segue into our Mile Mountain segment, which is where you and I we pick two players, one on offense, one on defense.
Yeah.
That we believe made it to the top and maybe even the bottom. So for me, in terms of offense, I'm going to give it again to Teddy Bridgewater, because even though Bridgewater got sacked twice, he didn't throw any interceptions. He had a really good QBR rating, and he just stayed so calm and cool in the pocket. And so far it's amazing. And going into week 3, I can only imagine it's going to be just as good, if not better. So that's my pick for offense. On the defense wise, Rich, I got to give it to Kareem Jackson, because I've been kind of hard on Kareem Jackson this offseason, and I wasn't really the greatest supporter of his when he got re-signed, because I thought that, maybe the Broncos were just trying to hold on to something that maybe wasn't there. But on that pick play, that was amazing. He almost took that ball right out of that man's hands, and was able to stay inbounds and get a little bit more yardage before he went flying out because of all that momentum. So kudos to Kareem Jackson on that amazing interception.
I agree. KB82, just wanted to ask you very quickly with regards to this here. Who do you think will shine the most as a replacement due to our team's injury? I'm just going to ask you to be a little bit more specific. And it's really sad that I have to be this specific, but at which position? So if you could please go ahead and clarify that for me, that would be wonderful. And then we can go ahead and speak to it. With regards to my Mile High Mountain, I'm going to go with the shining star. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and put Von Miller up there on my Mile High Mountain. This is the second game in a row where I have seen Von Miller look like basically Von Miller of old. He's gotten into the DeLorean. He's decided that it's, 6 or 7 years ago. And he's decided to show us all the fact that we shouldn't have been so dismissive of the fact that he was coming back in the last year of his deal. I know there's many fans that were saying, hey, maybe you could trade him and get a bunch of picks or something like that by trading him. Wow, did he ever take over some of those plays in the game, even against the Jags? He did the same thing against the Giants. So he is on my Mile High Mountain. On the offensive side of the ball, from the good, I'm gonna go ahead and throw Javonte Williams in there. I think that he was an underappreciated player on the offensive side of the ball for us. I mean, we can all say Courtland Sutton, but to me, that's just too obvious. He's almost like an automatic. And if you don't include him on that Mile High Mountain, you probably weren't watching the same game I was. Javonte Williams was really the jump start of our run game against the Jags. He played a better game, in my opinion, than Melvin Gordon. And he's also shown that he's capable of both running inside and outside in terms of the run game, which is a bit of a difference from what he did in college. He traditionally ran on the outside in college, but he's running both inside and outside at the NFL level, which should be of great concern for our future opponents, including the New York Jets that are coming up this coming Sunday. And I just have one person that I absolutely need to mention as being, we'll just say, they wish they could start climbing the mountain, and it's becoming a bit of a concern for me. Like to know everyone else's thoughts about this as well. And that is Dalton Reisner on the left-hand side at the left guard position. This is now the second game in a row where I've seen Reisner really struggle, and I don't really have any other way of putting it. He has been pushed back. I've seen guys blow through him. I've seen him be the cause of play breakdowns on the left-hand side of that offensive line at the guard position. And part of that might also be because Cushenberry, while he's improved, is still not doing all that well. Nonetheless, the guard position is Reisner's to hold down, and I'm finding that he's struggling a fair amount.
Yeah, for me, the bottom of the Mile High Mountain is going to be Tom McMahon. That man is, to me, it's almost like he's building a freaking house down there because he's looking to stay down there for a while. So until things change, he's going to be down there for me.
I don't count Tom McMahon. He lives at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, at this point, I wouldn't put it that. But to answer your question, KB, pretty much for Bradley Chubb, I did say earlier either Malik Reed or if Fangio, it might be time for Fangio to bring up Jonathan Cooper. Let's see what he can do with the number ones out there. I'd be interested to see what he can do. For Darby, it's pretty much Patrick Surtain, just getting him used to the coverages and playing all of Vic Fangio's coverages. And for Josie Jewell, it almost feels like it's a revolving door between him, what happened to Justin Sternad last year, getting injured and being out for the season, and now Jewell's hurt and out for the season. So it's like they almost switch places. So it'll be interesting to see if Justin Sternad can do just enough to keep the training, the coaching staff from bringing in outside help like a veteran or trading for another linebacker, whereas they can say, hey, we got, we're good with Justin Sternad. Let's just get somebody to play behind him and maybe even use him in a rotating position.
I'm going to blast through these super fast. Chubb, I think we're going to see Jonathan Cooper being brought up and used, and then we're going to see him spelled by Mintz. I think, as you said, Reed will basically fill the permanent starting position for Chubb. But frankly, I think that we are seeing rotation anyway, so I think you're going to see Cooper and Mintz basically just play more. With regards to Darby, Surtain, rather. I almost had a bit of a flip there. So Surtain is going to be the natural guy to fill that position. And frankly, he's that should be his bread and butter, and I expect him to only get better as the season goes on. And Jewel, I believe you're going to see an even split, and this is kind of me calling out what I think is going to actually start happening. I think you're going to start seeing even split between Sternad and Browning in at the inside linebacker position, as even split between reps. And I believe that this is going to be a little bit of a test for the Denver Broncos to see which one of them can maybe step ahead of the other and actually earn that second starting linebacker position on the inside. So it is coming up to a little after 7:30. We have our two guests awaiting in the wings. That's right, I said two. We have the New York Jets coming up as our opponent this coming Sunday, and we are going to do a bit of a new segment here on Broncos Talk, where we're going to do a hot five. We're going to ask both of our guests to give us their top 5 things that they believe their team needs to do to beat our Denver Broncos. First up, I'm going to be bringing in the Jets superfan, Frank West. A bit of a theme here, as you may or may not know. I am the son of an officer here north of the border, hence the flag behind me. And he is an officer down there in the U.S. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Mr. West.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. West?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Talk.
Hanging in there.
It's going to be a good game, I think. I'm looking forward to it. And for those of you who might recognize the guest that's currently on screen, depending on which region you're in and which ads you get and where you watch them, you may recognize him from the Jets ads. Starts off with lying in bed and the whole bit. So I thought I'd go ahead and bring that up. He didn't even turn red, so that's fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. Our second guest is Jets Central as the podcast. You can go ahead and find them on YouTube or find him on YouTube. It's a great podcast. I actually watched the segment that was just released today on a bit of a Broncos review video. Had some very kind words, particularly at the beginning of the video, to say about our Denver Broncos. I just like to go ahead and bring in Jets Central.
Hey,
what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Oh no, thank you guys for coming. It's a pleasure to have you guys here on the show.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
So let's talk football, guys. It's a pretty big matchup coming up for both teams. Our Denver Broncos are 2-0. You guys are 0-2. And you're in a tough division, just like we're in a tough division, even with Brady not being in there anymore. My first question to you guys is, how do you guys see the struggle going on, and how do you guys feel about Robert Saleh coming in? Do you feel like he can be the guy to turn the New York Jets team around?
Yeah, I'll let you take it first if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, either way, I think he can be, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, you don't get to pick second overall because you're a great football team. All right. So he wasn't exactly handed the keys to the kingdom. So any Jet fan out there, and it kind of pissed me off on Sunday when I have people booing Zach. I mean, granted, the kid threw 4 interceptions. I get it. It's disappointing. You can't get in your quarterback's head. You know what I mean? I mean, they feel that. I mean, I've been down on the field during games. If the crowd is up with you, I feel like I could get out there and play. You know what I mean? When they start booing, I mean, how do you think that hits a kid that's, what is he, 22 years old?
Yeah.
You got 80,000 people in the stands booing him. People need to stop with that. There's going to be growing pains. All right. I mean, eventually, if Coach Saleh's plan is going to work, it's going to be through hard work. It's going to be a progression over time. It's not going to be, hey, look, we got a new coach, we got a new quarterback. All right, we're going undefeated this year. I mean, I'll have anybody that listens. Of course, I tell you, the Jets are going to be, 18-2 the rest of the way. All right, we're going to win everything. That's just me being
optimistic. Yeah.
But the reality is, I mean, we generally judge football by, first quarter of the season, second quarter. Now we got 17 games. So I'm kind of looking at it in thirds now. You know what I mean? So I'd say by the first 6 games, if we're 1-5, I'm happy. All right. As long as we're not getting blown out. Even the last loss was only 2 scores. I mean, that's still, and you had 4 turnovers. You know what I mean? So you could still you could get past that. You know what I mean? If we're going out there and the opponent's putting up half 100 on us every week, yeah, I could see getting down. But there are, moments of brilliance there. I mean, you've seen this kid escape a few tackles. You're like, holy shit, how do you do that? And then there's these bonehead like that pick in the third quarter. I mean, who the hell was he throwing at? I mean, he was moving away from me downfield. So I was looking at what he was looking at, and I saw nothing but blue jerseys, and he just heaved it up there. So really, it's hard to say how the plan is going to work out this early in the season. But just judging by the first game, the adjustments they made, I mean, we had 80 yards of total offense through three quarters.
Right.
Mhm.
They make a few adjustments going into the fourth quarter. And what happens then? First drive, boom, 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 73 yards, touchdown, right? Hold them to 3 and out. We come back out. We go another 60 yards for a touchdown. So if they can continue to grow as coaches, as well as these players, I mean, I don't think we got too many guys on the team that have been in the league more than 3 or 4 years. So we got a lot of young guys. We got a lot of new coaches. It's kind of hard to make a prediction right now. Me being me, 18-2 the rest of the way, no problem. Just give us the Lombardi right now.
Right. So for Jets Central, just kind of similar thing. Where do you think you guys are going to be? How do you like your quarterback? Where do you think he's going to land you? And do you think this is just going to be a bit of growing pains early and maybe rewards later on?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I feel like we have a lot of foundational pieces. We have the core in place. I do like Salah. I do think he's going to be the guy moving forward. The only thing that I don't want, to get skewed throughout the course of the season is getting so hung up on winning games. And I know it sounds so weird to say that because at the end of the day, like that's why you play. But if we win 6 games this year, that's obviously not that good in the grand scheme of things, but we're tripling our win total from last year. I mean, we're not a playoff caliber roster. I mean, we've seen that against the New England Patriots. Like, I feel like right now we're a little too young to be competing with teams like obviously like the Chiefs and the just tons of great teams out there. But I really want to gauge the season off of the growth, right? If we're continuing to get better, as you alluded to before, throughout the course of the season, whether you want to look at it from a quarterly basis or, in thirds, as long as we're continuing to not shoot ourselves in the foot, learning from our mistakes and growing and getting better as a unit, I feel like that's really all we can ask for. I'm not really expecting, 15 wins or anything like that, but I'm not saying, I don't think we're going to win any games, but I do feel like the growth of the team really should be highlighted first.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? If I can make just one quick point, Robert Salah is pretty much in the exact same spot that Vic Fangio was when he came over to Denver, because he was Robert Salah was a really good defensive coordinator for the San Francisco, and that defense in 2018, 2019 was loaded. And he was a great guy. He took the team all the way to the Super Bowl, and they barely just lost that game. So him coming over as a defensive-minded coordinator and trying to turn that defense around was, it's kind of hard to do, because what a lot of teams are looking for right now is they're looking for the next Sean McVay. They're looking for the next, big offensive mind, the next Sean Payton, or I can't think of another one on the top of my head, or Andy Reid, for example. So it's kind of hard when those guys are not available, or there are really good offensive coordinators available, but teams are not willing to kind of go risk it and be like, oh, well, maybe they're only good because the head coach they're with. That's why that offense. So some teams don't want to take that risk. So they try to go with a defensive coordinator, try to build the defense up a little bit and kind of build some, it's kind of like buying time just to see if that offensive coordinator they had in mind is available the following offseason. So that's pretty much where I see the Jets going in terms of the direction this year.
I agree. I'd actually like to start getting into some of the stuff that some of the Broncos fans here, because we don't necessarily follow the Jets obviously as closely as both of you do. Start with Jets Central on this one. What are your 5 kind of quick hit points that the Jets need to do this coming Sunday to beat the Broncos?
Yeah, so right off the bat, it's going to be a tough test. Veteran defense led by Fangio in Mile High. It's going to be a rowdy environment. I would say the first thing is controlling the clock. I feel like Denver, they've done a really good job. Granted, it's only been 2 games against the Giants and the Jags, but they've done a great job of just getting the lead and then controlling it from there on out. So control the clock. I mean, if we can go up 3-0, 7-0 and really hit Denver in the mouth early and control time of possession, I feel like that will really bode well for the team moving forward. I feel like because Denver's defense is really, really good, or they've shown, again, only 2 games, but they've shown that they can be productive against the run. I feel like utilizing quick passing as an extension of the run game could be beneficial. Getting Zach Wilson's confidence up, getting the football out of his hands quickly to guys like Elijah Moore and Michael Carter, elusive playmakers in open fields. I think defensively covering the middle of the field, not letting guys like Fant and Albert O stretch you down, over the seams, or just even on those like little 5-yard turnarounds. Let's see what else. I got my 5 points written down here. Not to get beat over the top. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Notes are absolutely allowed. So so go for it.
Just keep the no swearing. Yeah, no swearing. That's all we have.
I make no guarantees.
Yeah. So not to get beat over the top, I feel like is another thing. Like, you don't really think of Teddy Bridgewater as just some, Rodgers, Mahomes, but this guy's a more than capable quarterback to do that. And we saw that against the Jaguars, him taking those shots against the young secondary. I think the solid defense, the cover 4, cover 3 system will prevent that from happening, but you can never, you can't just bet on that going into a week. And then really the fifth and final point here, how are the young corners going to do against the stacked offensive weapons that the Broncos have? Judy's down. He's on IR for a while, but still Williams, Gordon, Fant, who else? Sutton. I like KJ Hamler as well. I feel like the young corners need to step up.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are kind of great kind of points to look at. And again, like I said, as a Broncos fan, the only thing I'm looking at is the last couple games that I've seen from the Jets, and so the way I generally work it is I wait till the week before, and then I start binging a couple of the games I saw from our next opponent to get a good idea in terms of what to expect and what I'm looking at. I actually completed watching your Sunday night game last night, and the one thing I will say is that your interior defensive line, particularly early on, played quite well. And from my perspective, that's one thing that I'm not going to lie, I'm quite concerned about coming up in the game, because if you get that interior push and pressure, you can really prevent the run game up the middle. And when you can eliminate kind of that middle of the field with just 2 or 3 guys, you really do expand what you can then do in terms of coverage options and whatnot. So I'm concerned on that front. Now, moving over to you, Frank. What do you think are kind of 4 or 5 things that your Jets can do or need to do rather to beat the Broncos this coming Sunday?
Well, we need to capitalize on the fact that Chubb is out. This guy's got 3-4 sacks already. He's out of the game. We need to work that to our advantage. All right. I don't know too much about your bench. I don't know who's coming in for him, but if our young running backs can find some seams in there, that's going to help Zach out a lot. We got Crowder coming back. All right. So he's another quick slant guy. That'll help us out. I agree with Jet Central on, we got to do those little, I hate saying this, but like those little Brady passes that it's really a run. If the defense can play the way they've been playing, I think we'll hold our own. I was actually surprised by our defense. The offensive line that they built, I thought we were going to be a scoring machine. I'm like, you could put anybody back there behind that wall of meat that we have. And I was just utterly disappointed the first 3 quarters of football this season. It took our number 1 pick from last year to go out, and they moved, George Fant over to the other side, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, all right, this is solid now. So if the O-line can hold up, Chubb's out, that helps. Short passes, young running backs got to step up. What else? I tell you what, if that John Franklin Myers can play the way he's been playing, we could be in good shape. Teddy had that bad injury a few years ago, and we had him for preseason. And I go to just about every camp, and anyone that I can make, if I'm not working, I'm there. And it's one thing I noticed. Now this is 2 years removed, so I'm not trying to, get in your heads or anything. But one thing I noticed, anybody even put a hand on him. I mean, granted, he had a red shirt on. You're not supposed to be tackling him. When anybody touched him, he looked like a deer in headlights. So I think a couple quick hits on Teddy early in the game, and it's going to change his whole performance. So was that 4 or 5? I think I got them all in there. I think if we, we put Teddy on his back in the first quarter once or twice, that's going to be enough to shake up your offense. Judging just by what I've seen out of him when he was out here with us, and just taking advantage of some of your injuries. Exploiting your newer guys. Because we got all new guys, so you could just exploit anywhere you like. Let's see what happens.
Right. 6'10". I'm going to pull up this comment here from KB82. I'm genuinely interested in this answer as well. I'll read it out, and if you guys wouldn't mind answering this for us. What part of New York or New Jersey is the Jets fans, and which part is the Giants fans? Or is this a mixture of all New York and New Jersey? I'll be honest. I'm north of the border, so I'm the only Canadian Broncos fan that's kind of on these podcasts that I know of. Hence my Canadian flag that's got the Broncos logo on it. I do travel to New York a fair amount. Normally it's about 3-4 times a year, although I typically stick to Buffalo and Niagara. But I was genuinely curious about this when I saw this question come up in the chat. So what do you guys have to say to this?
Yeah, so Frank, you're going to know more than me because I'm actually from Florida. I'm down in Tampa, so became a Jet fan because my parents, they're from up north, but I personally, never spent more than a couple weeks, maybe a month up there at a time. So you know better than me.
Yeah, well, number one, I just like to point out, we refer to Buffalo and Niagara as Canada. So
that's Canada.
Those guys jumping through tables, they may be Mounties for all I know. That doesn't happen. All right. That's number one. Number two, it's pretty much a mix around here. You know what I mean? You'll see just as much green as you will blue. It tends to be a younger crowd. I mean, even though this is what happens with 12 years with no playoffs, your hair turns white. But generally, our Jet fans is a little bit of a younger fan base. When you see the Giants, it's usually the older guys. Tickets have been in the family since the 50s or whatever, but it's a pretty well split. I mean, just even amongst the guys I work with, it's probably 50-50 right down the middle, it's hard to say. I tell you what, the cutoff is when you get to Mercer County, everybody becomes Eagles fans. I can't figure that out. I can't get my head around that, but they're all Eagles fans. At least they're wearing green. I mean, that makes me happy. But
yeah, you know what? My biggest probably thing with New York is probably MetLife Stadium, because there's a part of me that wants to go visit it because I've always wanted to visit New York, and it's on one of my things to do in my life. But I don't know if I can bring myself to come around MetLife because I still have the dent in my couch where I was watching Super Bowl 48 because I was just that damn sad watching Russell Wilson and the freaking Seahawks just, have their way with my Broncos on that Super Bowl night. And it happened at MetLife. And even though it has nothing to do with the Giants or the Jets, the fact that it happened there, it hurts. I don't think that I could bring myself to, come around and let alone just stand outside. But I mean, who knows?
Do you have to ask that question, Prophet? In fact, let me coin check you while you're there. Hang on. You got your coin? You better put a picture up, pal, or you owe me one.
But to kind of backtrack a little bit, I just want to give my quick 5 points to what the Broncos need to do to beat the Jets. Zach Wilson is one thing that the Broncos defensive line has had kind of trouble dealing with the last couple of years is dealing with mobile quarterbacks. And Zach Wilson is, if you give him a space to run, he's got some wheels. He can run. So the Broncos have to make sure that when they close that pocket, to make sure that the quarterback cannot get out and run to make a play, let alone try to run out and get some yards. And the second one would probably be on the defense to kind of force Wilson to make throws that nobody else would make. We kind of saw that with your matchup last week against New England. for you guys. So losing that, I know, really hurt because, you really hate to lose a division game because not only do you lose one game, but you have to play that exact same team, even though it's in a different stadium again. So force the quarterback to make mistakes. And as far as our offense against your Jets defense, it's just kind of wear them out. That's what the Broncos offense has been doing the last 2 weeks, guys. That Giants defense, when we faced them, they were pretty formidable on paper. But with Bridgewater not throwing the ball carelessly and not giving up, interceptions, or the running backs not fumbling the ball, you wear out that defense long enough, you can make a play like Melvin Gordon did where he just ran down the field for a touchdown. So you can wear down any defense, and you can pretty much have your way with them and, confuse them, run any play that you want, and you'll almost every single time be able to get your a score, if not a field goal. So the fourth one would probably be limiting turnovers, which is something that the Broncos have done really good so far. But, knock on wood, hopefully that can continue, no interceptions, no fumbles. And the fifth one, which is probably my most important point, and it's something that we've been talking about since the beginning of the show, is our special teams. Our special teams cannot give anybody on the Jets just even an inch to run, because I don't know how fast every single one of your special teams guys is on your team, but I'm pretty sure you guys have some pretty fast guys that we have not seen yet. So we got burned by Jacksonville last week, and that was almost a comeback if the defense didn't go out and shut that stuff down.
Right. So I actually, coming from Canada, we didn't really have a bunch of football here. I'm actually a competitive rugby player. That's my background. So I believe in hitting people at full speed with absolutely no pads and no protection. The whole Canadian part of me is a little nuts, but that's fine. So when I look at the keys to the game, I always look at the really physical areas on the field, and that's why the interior of the Jets defensive line really stuck out to me, because I felt that they were really pushing the Patriots offensive line back. So my keys to the game kind of start with our interior offensive line against your interior defensive line. I believe that our interior defensive line absolutely has to step up if we are going to win this game. That would be my point one. My point two is our offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, needs to get out of his own way, and he needs to start playing in more 2 tight end sets and 3 tight end sets in order to help springboard the run game. Because ultimately, against a good interior defensive line, that's really the best way to go about doing it. We may also need to start sprinkling in the third tight end we have on our team. His name is Andrew Beck. He plays the fullback position for us. Again, for the New York fans here that are going to potentially watch after the fact or listen after the fact, you probably won't know that name, and that's fine. He plays fullback for us. So sprinkling in and moving in that fullback position to help with the interior run game will be pretty important for us. And then on the flip side, we just need to continue to see the younger rookies like Surtain continue to grow, as well as our interior linebacker positions, who are, as you guys aptly pointed out, stepping in for injured players. So as long as they can continue to make that natural growth, I think we're going to be okay in those positions. And lastly, I think the Broncos need to start capitalizing on what I saw in the Patriots game, which was the area of the field that was just in behind your defensive line, in between the linebacker positions and the defensive line. What I saw against the Patriots in particular is that section of the field was left wide open.
CJ Mosley can cover that area. It looks empty, but he's there. The man's savage.
But getting the ball out to that section of the field is a 2 or 3 yard gain just by simply catching it and not dropping it. And we have some tight ends in our group. One of them that's being undervalued by most is a guy the name of Eric Saubert. And Eric Saubert's an extremely physical and very large tight end. He has done extremely well for us in the blocking game. So I think he could be a guy that we could start seeing a little bit more in the pass catching game, as well as the run blocking game, that could kind of end up in that little interior flat position there and behind the defensive line. So those would be my 5 that I'd like to see kind of play out for us to win. And basically it's going to be kind of that slugfest that I'm used to seeing when we play the Jets.
Mm-hmm. My question to you guys would be, we were talking about well, actually Frank brought it up earlier, talking about the pick that the Jets made. If you were the GM that night on this past draft, and who would you change your pick? And if so, who would you have wanted to select from this past draft class?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I liked pretty much every single quarterback coming out, Mac Jones, Fields, even Trey Lance as well. But for me, I think, and of course, hindsight's 2020, but I think I would stick with Zach Wilson. Honestly, I mean, if the Jets were to pass on Wilson, we went with Lance or Fields or whoever, Zach Wilson would have been the next pick with San Fran at 3. Like, everybody in the league wanted Zach. I still feel like there's so many different tools that Wilson brings to the table. Like, I think he's going to be your guy.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had to go with Wilson because of what I was complaining about earlier. I may have used profanity, for which I apologize. Mm-hmm. The media and the Boo Birds just ran Sam out of town. He's going to have a lot of success down there in Carolina. He is a great quarterback. It was unfair what they did to him. He didn't have the team around him yet. They were just putting it together, and I was a believer in him. I mean, I seen what this kid can do at camp. His arm strength is amazing. I mean, his vision and even his legs, he could get moving. But he was emotionally compromised. I mean, you can't take the field. If every pass isn't a touchdown, they're booing him. You can't take the field like that. So we had no choice. You had to start over. You had to get another quarterback. And Zach appeared to be the guy. We'll know, soon enough. I mean, I'd say another year or so. We'll figure out if it was right. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I disagree with a single pick that Joe Douglas has made so far, a single move. I mean, everything that he's done has been pretty much textbook. Mm. And I don't know anybody that has complained about it. And if they did, they're just, they're just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I actually have a question for both of you guys. Again, for the benefit of everyone here, what would you say are the 3 biggest weaknesses on the New York Jets? What are the things that you guys are saying, I really hope this, and this don't get exploited, or that we play better in that area? Like, things of that nature.
As it pertains to this week, or just in general, like with the football team?
In general, I mean, we're 2 weeks in, so I could tell you probably 5 things off the top of my head about the Denver Broncos in terms of things that I've seen that are concerning for me coming into any game, Jets or others included. So I'm more talking generally speaking. You've now seen 2 weeks go through. What are 3 things that you think are items of concern or issues of concern?
Well, I mean, one thing that's just kind of completely uncontrollable is just the youth, the overall depth of the team. We have a really young team. I think it was mentioned a couple times during the Patriot game that the Jets actually have, by age, the youngest football team in the league. So unfortunately, we can't control that, but it's always a concern. I mean, they're going to make plays. They're going to be, obviously athletically there, but you have to take into consideration the mistakes that they're going to be, or the mistakes that are going to be out on the field. Another one, I would say, getting Zach Wilson comfortable. That's always a big concern with young quarterbacks, whether they're a rookie, second year, or whatever. Getting the young quarterbacks comfortable early in the game, especially when we're going up against a team like Denver. You don't want to start off a game with 2 interceptions, or where you're constantly sacked, or, what Sam Darnold had to deal with for 3 years. And then number 3, this one's tough, but I would say, and I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with the youth, but the secondary. I mean, overall, it's a pretty young group. Marcus May was drafted a couple seasons ago, the same draft as Jamal Adams back in 2017. And all of a sudden, he's our veteran leader in the back end. So just the youth overall for me, especially in the secondary.
Right. I know that's not what you were getting at. I know you were looking for something more like, we're weak on the right side or whatever, but he hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's a very young team, youth and experience and comfort level. Those are the 3 things that you need to exploit. I mean, if you see that you're making a receiver uncomfortable by, hitting them a little too hard or whatever, that's what you got to go for, because right. I mean, guys are going to be uncomfortable. It's first time they've been in the NFL. Inexperience. I mean, even that interception that I know I use profanity for, because that is just that right there is that's just Belichick being the mad genius that he is, I mean, hiding a man in plain sight. I guarantee you, when Zach sat down and watched that tape, he's like, where did that guy come from? He had no idea he was even there. He was probably just lined up behind a tackle or wherever he was. Everybody in the stands could see him plain as day. Looked like he threw him the pass, but he probably had no idea he was there. So that's capitalizing on the inexperience.
Right.
And then the youth, I mean, these guys probably think that they can, jump for a ball 10 feet in the air, or if they throw the ball to a guy, he can get up there. It just sometimes the overconfidence that comes with these guys that, because they went in the first, second, third round, whatever, they feel like they could do anything. Unfortunately, they find out the hard way that they can't. So that's the three areas.
Right. I mean, the Denver Broncos are a pretty young team as well, generally speaking. Like, we have a few guys at a few position groups that have been dusted in with some veteran savvy, if you will. But generally speaking, on our roster, we are pretty young, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Most of our offensive line, with the exception of Massey on the right side, are all within a year or two, or at most 3 in the league. And then at the receiver side, again, a good portion of them are young, or 1-2 years, maybe 3 years in the league. So we have a similar roster makeup, if you will, in terms of youth. And I'm not sure, you guys were kind of in the back there in the green room. I don't know if you guys could hear us or not, but in terms of what we were saying, but the Denver Broncos at the inside linebacker position, the outside linebacker position, as well as the cornerback position, we have a blend of both rookies and second-year players that are going to be stepping into those roles, or third-year players that are stepping into those roles. So we have some youth on our team as well, which is very similar to the Jets.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would probably say injuries are starting to kind of creep up on our Broncos team. They're not as severe as they were last year, but it's something for the team to kind of keep an eye on, because we don't want to end up on that boat. We already lost our inside linebacker for the season, and we have a couple of guys that are on short-term IR. But after we play you guys, our schedule does get tougher. So we're going to need all the help we can get, and we cannot go into biting and going into our depth this early in the season, because with an extra week, every team out there is going to need all the help they can get. So injuries are going to be a big key part. Also, our special teams they're always a big concern for us. It's just, we really don't know why our coordinator is still with Denver, how he still has a freaking job. So that's also something to watch. And like Rich mentioned, the right side of our offensive line is kind of still, it's not as formidable as the left side, but because Bobby Massey hasn't really been challenged yet, and we're still playing Moody, who just saw his very first game this week against Jacksonville, and he's a really good run blocker, but a pass protector is kind of where he struggles. So he doesn't have that same force that Graham Glasgow has. So if Glasgow does have to be out one more game, I would prefer he's out this one and get ready for the upcoming game against Baltimore. So those would be my 3 points where I would like to see Denver try to improve. But honestly, I think only 2 of those 3 can actually happen, not as long as Tom McMahon is still in Denver. Frank, why don't you tell us about the tailgate victory over a Broncos fan on national TV?
I'm sure she's probably watching, and that's why he brought it up. But you saw me hold my coin up. This is a group that I'm in. It's the PFUFA, Pro Football's Ultimate Fan Association. I first heard about it on the set of Chopped, season 31, episode 2, Tailgate Greats. Somebody at Food Network had heard about my tailgate and what I was doing out in the parking lot here. They invited me to compete. A couple screen tests and some interviews later, I ended up going on, and it was against, Catherine Highland, Bronco babe. She put up a good fight. She made it through the first round, but she wasn't beating me. I'm sorry. I didn't go there to lose. That's one thing's for sure. But yeah. So I mean, if you do ever take the trip out to come to a game, you got to stop by my tailgate, because you'll never eat better. I don't care if you're at a wedding or some highfalutin event. If you would have seen the food that I put out this week, it was 2 years, like basically 2 years. Last game was December of 19 that I got to tailgate for officially. So I held nothing back this week. I mean, I could have fed an army. It was
awesome.
ridiculous.
I have a quick question for Jet Central and for you as well, Frank. Do you have any questions for Broncos fans? We have a captive audience here. I'd be very curious if you have any questions for the collective group here. And for those that would like to give their answers after the fact, because this is posted on YouTube after the fact, feel free to leave a comment with your question, and I'm happy to jump back in and get those questions answered for you. But do you guys have any questions for us in terms of our team, what to expect, what we see, all that kind of stuff? Open forum.
Yeah, so for me, it's just a general question. How do you guys feel about Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback moving forward? I feel like Denver has a lot of things figured out offensively and defensively. And Teddy Bridgewater, he's been one of those guys that's been pretty consistent throughout the course of his NFL career, but nobody has ever said Teddy's a top 5 guy, a top 10 guy. Do you guys believe in Bridgewater as a player who can lead Denver deep into the playoffs?
Yeah, you know what? One thing that I'm loving about Teddy Bridgewater is he's moving us up in the ranks with these TV analysts. Even Colin Cowherd, who up until last year, I really had a bone to pick with him, but he just moved up our Broncos to number 8 in his top 10 rankings. So I'm very grateful for that. Me, at the beginning of probably last year, I'm a Drew Lock supporter. I still think Drew Lock can be the guy, but maybe not so much right now in Denver, seeing as how he has to sit behind Bridgewater. And when talk started coming out about the Broncos possibly going out and getting Bridgewater, I was against it because I didn't really feel the need to bring in another quarterback. We still had our backup, Brett Rippon, and I felt that Drew Lock needed one more year to kind of prove like, hey, give me one more shot. Let me try to go out there and show you that I can be that guy, because he was supposed to have a promising season last year, and unfortunately it didn't pan out. So Bridgewater came on because George Payton. If it was John Elway would have done one more year, Bridgewater would either still be a free agent or he'd be playing for a different team right now, guaranteed, because Drew Lock was John Elway's guy. But with George Payton coming into town, he changed a lot of things around. He felt that Teddy Bridgewater was a safer player choice. And then they had this quote-unquote quarterback competition during training camp and for like the first or 2 preseason games. And then the keys were handed over to Bridgewater. So he won me over. I really do support. I really love seeing what Bridgewater has done these last 2 weeks. But even with his real test coming in just about 2 weeks and going forward, I think that he can actually keep this Broncos team straight in terms of limiting turnovers and, sacks and whatnot. So I think that he can be the guy that can get us to the playoffs and further.
I think that with Shermer, Teddy has he has a shorthand, I think, that with Shermer that he didn't have with some of the other offensive coordinators he was working with, including guys like Sean Payton. When you see Teddy coming in, he brings a veteran presence and kind of that mature mindset that I believe, even for someone like myself who actually wanted Drew Lock to win that competition, unless there was a marked difference between Teddy and Drew. I think now that you're seeing the two play live in games, I'm always going to support whichever quarterback is playing on the field for the team, for my team. And frankly, having seen now these first 2 games, Teddy was the right choice. You're seeing him adjust protections at the line. You're seeing him do the little things that you never saw Drew Lock do. And I believe that is an important element of a football game if you want to ever win at the NFL level. I also believe that Denver Broncos kind of put Drew in a really bad spot by bringing in Joe Flacco, who may have been the worst teammate I've ever heard publicly speak.
Agreed.
Who said, and I direct quote, I'm not here to help him. And I'm generally paraphrasing, but I'm not that far off either. So I actually think that a young quarterback does truly benefit coming in the kind of, if they're coming in later in the rounds, like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I believe they generally do much better when they're coming in behind a seasoned veteran who is willing to actually help them out. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, is a great example of a guy who's clearly been quite okay helping people behind him. Teddy Bridgewater has already shown to be that veteran as well in our team. But I actually believe with what Mundungus Creevy said here earlier, I believe he will be re-signed at the end of this year if he continues to play the way he is. I believe that we're going to start seeing that quarterback position solidify for the Denver Broncos on a go-forward basis with Teddy Bridgewater, and I believe that opens up the Denver Broncos from a drafting perspective to allow us to really bolster the roster itself at the interior defensive line and the offensive line, which is really, I think that if we do that, a guy like Teddy Bridgewater is absolutely the right quarterback for our team, full stop, period.
Awesome.
Frank, any questions for us?
Just one for you. Are you legit 6'10"?
Yeah. Nobody believes it.
That's unbelievable. What the hell are you doing here? You should be playing football.
Man, you wouldn't believe how many people ask me that, or it's either that or basketball. I was just in Wisconsin like 2 weeks ago, and almost everywhere. My brother's 6'5", and he's a Detroit Lions fan. So we're walking down the street, me in Broncos gear, him in Lions gear, and they're just like, "What are you guys, like actual football players?" Or so it's funny.
Yeah, so we have a 6'10", and I have a running joke. So our combined height is 13 feet.
You guys.
So I'm 6'2", he's 6'10". So our combined it's 13 foot. So it's pretty funny. But so we're both pretty tall, pretty big guys. And it's and somehow we joined together, and we basically became like probably one of the tallest podcasters for all the NFL and all the NFL teams.
It's just a shame. There's a team of scientists out there looking for the missing link. He's right here. 6'10". You gotta be kidding me. You're like a Sasquatch living on top of a mountain.
Oh man, I've gotten so many nicknames over the years, and each one's funnier than the next, and I love them all. But we're almost at the end.
Yeah, we're at the end. We're at the end of the time here, guys. I just want to really thank both of you for coming on the show. We always love having other teams on the show, learning about what they're about, what they have to offer, what we are up against. And frankly, as a Broncos fan, we pretty much exclusively focus on the Denver Broncos. So having additional insight as to our opponents is always a great thing. Last but not least, he's our COVID tackle, Frank. In case you didn't know, you always need that COVID guy on the sideline. We're just going to go ahead and keep him over to the side there in Chicago. He can be flown into Denver. We've gone a step further here at the Denver Broncos and shipped him to Chicago as that extra safeguard. But that's about going to do us tonight. For Broncos Talk, guys. I really appreciate all of you joining us.
Yeah,
It was
thank
a
you guys
blast.
so much for coming.
First off, Jet Central, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube at Jet Central. Pretty much I try to make daily content about the New York Jets, breaking news here and there. And hey, by the way, I really, really appreciate you guys having me on. It means a lot.
No, thank you for coming, my friend.
No, we really appreciate you, and you and I will be in touch. We'll work something out in terms of tomorrow or the next day or something like that, and we'll do a re-and. That's I'm really looking forward to it. I've enjoyed our conversation and the back and forth email communication. Frank, do you have anything that people can kind of find you, your tailgate, or any other information?
Yeah, if you go on the Instagram at Jet Green Santa, if you watch the last home game before Christmas, there's a green Santa Claus in the crowd. That's me.
All right.
Yeah. So I only get the dress up thing once a year. Usually I'm just wearing a Walker jersey, and like today is my anniversary. Actually, it's 35 years since my first Jet game in attendance. And it
Congratulations!
Was September,
Congrats!
1986. Wesley Walker caught 4 touchdowns this day.
All right, I was 1 year old.
So if you go to Instagram at Jet Green Santa, you'll see some of the stuff I cooked, pictures of the tailgate. Upcoming, there's probably going to be some stuff with Marty Lyons. I don't know if you remember him. He was a nose tackle for us. He has the Marty Lyons Foundation. It's kind of along the lines of Make-A-Wish, but it's a little more localized. Trying to take care of kids that are, unfortunately,
need the help.
Well, Frank, if you have any information with regards to that charity work, if you're on Twitter or anything like that, or just text me, I'll go ahead and post that on my Twitter to try and get the word out. I love that kind of stuff, anything to do with that kind of charity work. So just please let me know, and I'll do what I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same with me as well.
Yeah, I'll retweet it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's about to do us. That'll do it to us for today. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here on Broncos Talk on this Tuesday. Our two guests, we'd like to thank them and give them a round of applause for joining us. That was amazing. Woo! I always love the insight. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about to do us. And if you could like and subscribe to our channel there's a subscribe button and then a bell button. That'll let you know when any new content is posted from any of our other podcasts. We have 4 of them now. The next one up in line is the MHRT, which is the flagship podcast. And that is with the one and only 6'10" Mexican, Mundungus Creevy, Mr. Boggins. And that is on Thursday at 7:654. The time zones, you can kind of figure those out yourself. And then we go ahead and move on to Friday with Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue. And that is with Mr. Baki. And he has a real name, but we only call him Pookie. So you can go ahead and tune in with them. And that is, again, 76543. Time zones, you can figure those out. And the newest show on the MHRT Network is The Neigh-borhood. And that is live before every game, pregame, where we go over a whole whack of stuff, including our sideline reporter in the Mile High Prophet. We'd like to thank Mile High Prophet for bringing us to the Jags game where he was live with PJ Ward. That was amazing. You can go ahead and check that out on our channel. It is posted there for all to view. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And again, we are about to sign off. And last but not least, this is the one thing that our channel is wanting to go on the Jumbotron at Mile High Stadium. And it is called the Mile High Five. So this is a bit of a Denver take on a high five where we clap above our head, kind of like a mountain. And it is something that our channel has been trying to push to get live on the Jumbotron. 6'10", are we ready?
Oh, we're ready, brother.
All right. Mile High Five. Woo! Yeah. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. It was really fun. I really enjoyed our guests. And until next time, Mile High Salute.